Well, hello and welcome. Do you know where I am? Let me give you a hint. Warm weather, great waterfront views, and some of the most affordable real estate around. Sunny South Florida. That's where I am. And it's a perfect place for you to buy a vacation home. Have you been thinking about it? Well, I'm going to break it down into 10 easy steps to help you on your way. If this is a topic that interests you, stick around.
Welcome to 772 Living with Lisa, where living the dream is just a click away.
Well, hello and welcome. My name is Lisa Ammons. I'm a real estate broker here in South Florida, in an area known as the Treasure Coast. And whether you're interested in a second home, vacation home, or buying a retirement property, I'm going to break it down into 10 simple steps to help you get on your way. If you're excited to dive into this topic, smash that like button. And one more thing, I'd really like to know how you found me. Did you watch one of my other videos? Did you do a search on YouTube? Make a comment below and let me know. Okay, so let's dive into the subject at hand. Okay, tip number 1. When you're considering a purchase like this, it's really important to stay within your budget. And with all of the information that's on the internet these days, there's absolutely no reason for you to stay in the dark as to whether you can afford the property or not. So calculate what your estimated mortgage payment would be if you're not paying cash. When it comes to the mortgage payment, you want to be smart and realistic about what you can shell out for a down payment, closing costs, and of course, the continuing monthly payment.
If you are truly buying a vacation home, banks consider that a second home. Down payments on these type of homes usually run between 10 and 20% of the purchase price. Closing costs are 3 to 4%.
Even if your intention is to possibly rent the property out, you can't consider the rental income in this equation. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is to touch base with a loan officer at a bank or a mortgage brokerage firm. A good loan officer is going to go over your income, your assets, any debt that you may have. They're going to give you a good faith estimate, which would let you know how much cash you're going to need to get into the purchase, what your closing costs are, what the monthly payment is going to be. They're going to guesstimate on taxes and insurance. Those are variables, but you're going to get very, very close as to what you can expect for a monthly payment and how much cash you're going to need. Tip number 2, additional costs. You know how much you can spend because you've talked to your loan officer or you're paying cash. Now you have to think about additional carrying costs. Of course, property insurance. You're going to have property taxes. There's a possibility that you will have either condo fees or homeowner fees. Possibility of additional maintenance. Could be lawn care, power washing the property, painting the property every so often, cleaning the gutters. There are things that need to be fixed. Your dishwasher could break, your air conditioner could break. So you need to factor in some annual carrying costs that are going to be on top of the initial investment or on top of the mortgage payment. Oh, and let's not forget, utilities. You could have phone, cable, internet, electric, gas. In a condominium setting, many of these things will be covered, but in a single family setting, these are going to be additional costs that you incur.
Maintenance runs about 1% per year of the purchase price.
The bottom line, make sure you take everything into consideration when looking at making a purchase on a vacation home. Tip number 3, do I buy a condo or do I buy a single family residence? You know, both of these properties have their advantages and their disadvantages. I always suggest that buyers sit down with a piece of paper and write the pros and cons for each. If you can look at them side by side, this is going to help you isolate which property is best for you, but it can get tricky.
Is it just a vacation home?
You know, a seasonal home is one thing. A full-time home is another. So really looking at what your intentions are for the property, short-term and long-term, are going to come into play. You know, with a condominium, you have a lock and leave lifestyle. There's really very little maintenance, if any. The condo association takes care of everything. However, a single family home has lots of advantages too. 1, you have a lot more room. 2, you have more privacy. And 3, you could move into it at a later date in your retirement. And condos, in the right location, well, if you do decide to rent the property out, they will rent out quite easily. And if you're buying it for an investment to rent out, that's a whole different topic altogether. So the bottom line here is you really need to think about what your intentions are for the property. Is it going to be just a vacation home that you will sell later? Or will it be a vacation home that will turn into a retirement home for you? These are questions you need to ask yourself. Tip number 4, rental restrictions. Okay, this is a big one. And if you are intending to rent the property out, so your vacation home may now be an investment property, you really need to look very closely at this. Whether it's a condo or a single family home, all communities are going to have rules, and they're going to have rules that pertain to renting the property out. Most of them are going to have a minimum amount of time on the lease. So it could be a minimum of 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. It could be a minimum of a year, which then it's an annual rental. You need to look these rules over very carefully. I find most condominiums, at least in the area that I live in, the Treasure Coast, don't allow daily rentals. So if your intention is to rent it out daily, it is an investment property, and you need to probably buy a single family residence because you're going to have a higher probability that you're going to be able to do that with a single family home than a condo. But you need to check with the homeowners association rules. There will be rules and you will be obligated to follow them. Another thing that many of these communities put in their rules is a waiting period, meaning once you purchase the property, you will have to wait before renting it. It could be a whole year. I've got condominiums in the city of Stuart that have a 3-year waiting period. Yeah, 3 years you must own it before you can rent it out. So look at the rules very carefully. Tip number 5, property management. Most people that purchase a property in an area where they don't live and their intention is to rent it out typically don't want to deal with advertising the property, writing the leases, collecting the rent, paying the taxes, and dealing with ongoing maintenance. So they hire a property manager. Most property managers are going to charge in between 8 and 10% of the rent to handle all of this for you. And it may sound like a lot, but honestly, it's worth every penny because they handle all the headaches for you and simplify the process. Tip number 6 is location. Location, location, location. I'm sure you've heard that one before. And it's an important word. Location is one of the most important words when it comes to a vacation property, particularly if you want to rent it out. But whether you want to rent it out or not, location is important. And I always talk to my customers about what they're going to do with their free time. You're not going to be in the property 24 hours a day. You want to go out and do things. So what do you want to do? Do you want to walk the beach daily? If that's the case, you are not going to want to buy a property out in western Port St. Lucie. Just saying. However, if you don't plan on going to the beach and you want to walk around the lake and go down to the local shops and being very close to shopping, then maybe you do want to be out west. Maybe you want to golf. So maybe you want to buy a property within a golfing community. You really have to look closely at what you're going to be doing with your free time, because if you do want to go to the beach and it's a 50-minute drive, not very likely you're going to go to the beach, every day that you're here when you're vacationing. So make sure you look at the area where the property is located and that it's conducive to what you're going to be doing with your free time. And if you are going to rent it, that put your vacationer hat on and think about what you would want to do if you were on vacation. Waterfront type properties or being closer to the water, they're going to rent out at a much higher rate than a property way out west. Tip number 7, steer clear of timeshares. Timeshares are finally starting to be outed for what they really are, and that is terribly cost ineffective. And when it comes time to sell them, you're going to find it's going to be a big challenge. Imagine this. You spend $10,000 up front for a timeshare, then you spend another, let's say $1,000 a year on maintenance cost, and you only get to use it 1 week out of the year. In my opinion, it's not cost effective and you're not building any equity. Not to mention, in areas where timeshares are prevalent, there are tons of scammers. So if somebody approaches you about a timeshare, personally, I would run, not walk, run. Tip number 8, hire a local realtor. You don't have to feel like you're on your own when you're looking for your dream vacation home in an area that you're unfamiliar with. Getting an experienced local real estate agent who knows the area like the back of their hands. Not only does the realtor know the ins and outs of buying real estate in the local area, they can reduce stress for you and even tell you about communities you may not have considered before. A good local real estate agent will be your best advocate when finding the perfect vacation home. Tip number 9, buy the property solo. In a perfect world, buying a vacation home with family and friends would be an uncomplicated, warm and fuzzy experience, relieving you of some of the financial burden. But that is not the case. In fact, some of the most harmonious families can find disagreements when it comes to investing in a property together. Fights can start about when to sell, who gets to use the property, and when they get to use it, something breaks and they want to split the cost, but you weren't the one that broke it. I've seen some really fun situations, so my professional advice is to purchase an investment property or vacation home all by yourself or with your spouse. If you are crazy enough to purchase the property with family and friends, I would suggest a very firmly written contract covering all bases. Who pays for what? Who gets to use it when and where? You know what the saying is, family and money don't mix. And tip number 10, and the most important tip of all, make sure you love it. You know, at the end of the day, the bottom line, a vacation home is for you and for you to enjoy. So, make sure it's what you want. Make sure you love it. Don't think about so much about, renting it out. It's your vacation home. You should put your enjoyment as the number one reason to buy that vacation home. Okay, hopefully in this video I've given you some good food for thought and some helpful tips to consider when you're looking for your vacation home. If it was at all helpful, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already done so, consider subscribing to this channel. I cover things like real estate and points of interest here in the Treasure Coast. And if those topics interest you, I would love to have you as part of my YouTube channel. My name is Lisa Ammons with 777. My name is Lisa Ammons with 772 Living. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.
Oh, let's not forget I have more video.
I go over active adult communities as well. I'll pop one of those in this area right over here. Be a video at the end. Check that one out. You'll enjoy it.